about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Hey, happy Monday. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. And Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Mindset Monday, but it's also Juneteenth, 2023, Freedom Day. I have loved seeing all of the red, black, and green today from my people. I love it. We are blackety black, black, black today. Okay. So at any rate, we are here and it is Mindset Monday, which is an opportunity for me, you, and my guests to talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. And today, since it is Men's Health Month, we are talking about Black men's mental health. Black men's mental health. My special guest is Miss Beneisha Hires, and I am super excited and delighted to have her with me tonight. But before I bring her on, I got to hear from y'all. Where y'all tuning in from? In the comments, please put your city and state. We are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and live on the Greater Works Network on RokuTV. So let us know, where are you tuning in from? Where are you tuning in from? Again, it has been a beautiful day in terms of just seeing all of the blackness. So I really, really appreciate just us walking in our freedom, walking in our melanin. And I actually went to a Juneteenth celebration after work today. Yes, I did have to go to work. The state of Florida was not playing them games with us today about being off. So at any rate, we are again excited to be here. So I want to invite you to, because this is an interactive live. I want to invite you to chime in. We want to hear from you, your questions, your comments. I see some of you are tuning in now. I see Stephen Miller from Palatka. We got Ebonique Biddle from Palatka, Miss Jeanette in Miami Gardens. We have Candace in Chicago, Lucille in Alabama. I love it. So I appreciate all of the new viewers. I invite you all to subscribe to the platform if you have not already. But we have a great conversation in store for you tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read my guest bio and then bring her on in just a little bit. So Miss Beneisha Hires is a licensed clinical social worker, certified financial social worker, and qualified supervisor for registered clinical social worker interns. And so she received her undergraduate and graduate degrees in social work from the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. She's been working in the field of mental health since 2014. She has experience providing risk assessments and crisis intervention, biopsychosocial assessments, individual and group counseling, discharge planning, care coordination, and mental health and substance abuse treatment. And she's right here in Tallahassee, too, y'all. She has worked in various settings, including community mental health, the public school system, the criminal justice system, collegiate institutions, and inpatient psychiatric facilities. And in her free time, she enjoys spending time with family and friends, engaging in outdoor activities, reading, cooking, exercising, and relaxing on the beach. I love the beach as well. So, y'all, help me welcome Miss Beneisha Hires.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, for those of us who may not know you, tell us a little bit more. I mean, I read your bio, but tell us, who is Beneisha? Not what you do, but who are you?
So who am I? So I am a mother. I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. I'm a clinician, but I'm also human. And I emphasize the human because I feel like a lot of times when we mention that we are clinicians, the expectation is that we have our lives together, and sometimes we don't, right? So, any opportunity that I have to normalize or humanize clinicians, I always take advantage of that opportunity. Um, I wouldn't consider myself to be an expert on men's mental health. However, I do consider myself to be an advocate and an ally for men's mental health, trying to educate the community on the importance of men's mental health and just continue to bring awareness to it.
Love it, love it, love it. All right. So we got a few more folks chiming in. I definitely want to acknowledge them. Brianna, do we know Brianna Hires?
Yes, Brianna is my daughter. Hey, baby. Thank you
Okay,
for joining.
wonderful. Thank you for tuning in, Brianna. All right. We got Carl from Palaca. We got Palaca in the house, boy. They representing. I love it.
They definitely are. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you.
Indeed, indeed. Tracy Golay here in Tallahassee. My sister in South Florida. Thank you for being here, Shay. I appreciate you. And Ebonique is saying welcome, welcome. All right. Yes. And Tony said, we in here. I love it.
Listen, me too. When family and friends show up and show out, we support it every opportunity.
Indeed, indeed. Somebody from Chicago as well. So love
That's
it.
my extended family. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Love all the love. So tell us more about your business in terms of when you started it, the name, and who it's for.
So, my private practice was initially started in 2021. And initially it was Hires Wellness. Um, But in February of this year, I decided to do rebranding. What led to me doing rebranding was, um, again, clinicians, there's this term that we are wounded healers, right? And I think that's the most toxic thing that we could associate ourselves with, being wounded healers. However, I was definitely a wounded healer, right? And so in 2023, I decided to, instead of just teaching, just practicing what it is that I teach. So I took the initiative to engage in therapy services for myself because, yes, therapists need therapists, right? And so during that process, it really affirmed like my self confidence. It helped in me setting boundaries, getting to know myself outside of my identity of mom, sister, and daughter, just like really exploring Beneisha for who I am as an individual. And so during that process, I decided to rebrand my private practice to I Matter Too. Um, and it is really significant because a lot of times when we get so caught up in these different roles and the responsibilities associated with these roles that we sometimes forget about ourselves, right? We sometimes find ourselves being on the back burner and the last person that whose needs are tended to. And so during my therapy journey, um, I really found and believed the thought process of I matter too. So my thoughts, my feelings, my wants, and my desires are just as important as anyone else's. And I don't have to be, the sacrificial lamb. I don't have to always put other people before myself, but just really prioritizing myself as much as I do others.
Yes, love all of that. And you're right. You don't have to be the sacrificial lamb, and you do matter too. So I'm glad you have been on that journey and have come to that realization. And I love that name for your private practice. So
Thank you.
kudos to you. All right. So we got a whole bunch of folks chiming in. Kiera, we got CG Gaming in Birmingham. We got Uncle Roy. Boy, they are listen.
Listen, I love it. I
The
do it. I
whole
do.
squad. Oh my gosh, I love it. All right. Olu here from Houston,
Hey,
Texas.
Olu.
All right. Thank you, Olu. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. All right, so I'm going to invite y'all all now. Y'all new to the platform, but I invite you to like and share because we on here every Monday and Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, talking about mental health in Black and Brown communities, seeking to eliminate the stigma associated with mental illness and counseling and therapy, and encouraging us all to get our checkup from the neck up. Because, like she said, just like counselors need therapy too, we all need it.
Absolutely.
I was at a event recently and moderating the discussion with two mental health professionals, and one said there are only two people in the world: people who go to counseling and people who need to go to counseling.
Hmm.
So one of the two categories, and you want to try to move from the one that's not going to the one that is going. Okay.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got Lynette from Milwaukee on here as well, and Onika in Tallahassee. Thank you all for being on here. Let's tag somebody. They need to be on here because this is going to be a great discussion tonight about Black men and mental health. Black men and mental health. So before we jump in, though, I got to read my disclaimer since I have a clinician on, and that is that all topics past, present, and future on Conversations with Nicole are for informational purposes only. They are not to be used as a diagnosis for treatment or an answer to any personal issues related to the topic being discussed before, during, or after the program. All right. All right, so let's dive in. I see my business partner and friend and brother Gerald is on here as well here in Tally. Thank you for being here, my brother. I appreciate you. And Keisha Renee, thank you for being here. All right, good deal. So, Black men and mental health. Why
Mhm.
should we even be concerned about Black men and their mental health?
I think the better question is why are we not concerned about Black men and their mental health? And the reason why I say that is if you think about it, there are a plethora of services that are geared towards women and children, right? But what about the men, right? I feel like a lot of times and everybody may not agree, and that's okay. But a lot of times we minimize the importance of men within our community, especially Black men. Um, Sometimes we fail to, I guess, like I said, acknowledge their importance, but also take care of them. Also understanding like if women and children have needs, men are not um, are not without having needs as well. It's just a lot of times we when we think about men, we have this persona or this perspective that men are supposed to be strong and that they have it all together, but really they sometimes they don't, right? They're human just like women and children are, but a lot of times we focus more so on their physical stature that we forget about the mental and emotional part that comes along with them. Um, and then there are a lot of things that we can take into consideration. So, for an example, intergenerational trauma. So, as we think about Juneteenth and thinking about the history of slavery, right? For the longest time, slaves were considered to be, three-fifths of a person.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, especially from a male's perspective, so they're already operating from a place of less than or lacking, right? And during that time, during slavery, they had to really practice composure, right? So, for an example, just being mindful of how they interacted with the slave masters because they didn't want to be whipped, or the term such as buck breaking, or being sold off, or having to watch their wives being raped or their children being sold off. So it is very much intergenerational. And even though slavery isn't a thing today, at least in that form, it doesn't change the fact that this mentality of, as a man, you have to suppress your emotions, or you have to be in control of your emotions, because if you don't, the consequences associated with that could be detrimental. And that thought process being passed down from generation to generation, and society continuing to perpetuate this thought process that of what a man looks like, such as, being emotionally composed, being the protector, and being the provider. And it is a lot of pressure.
So I want to pause here and see if we can get some of our men who may be tuning in to participate. So, men, Black men, do you feel like there is a lot of pressure to regulate, compose yourself, your emotions, regulate your emotions, compose your emotions as a Black man? Do you feel like if you don't, there will be some severe consequences, maybe even more severe than your white male kind of counterparts, if you don't, contain or compose yourself? Let us know in the comments if you don't mind. Again, this is a safe space for us to engage with one another. So if you feel comfortable enough sharing, we would really like to hear from you. While they are doing that, I see a few more people that have joined us. Kanesia Jones, thank you for being here. Miss Lucille Walker in Miami Gardens, and my mom is here in Miami. Thank you for being here, Mom. Appreciate you. All right. So, I pause and ask the gentleman to engage with us because I often hear that as well. That men feel like, they can't really either that they can't show emotion, or they are limited in the types of emotions that they can express.
Yes. I'm just curious to know, have we received any responses from any of the men?
Oh, not yet. Hey there,
Okay.
Warren Cave. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Warren is here in Tallahassee, and he had a wonderful event last week to with his nonprofit organization. So hope all went well, Warren. All right. Well, it's okay. They're a little quiet tonight. Maybe they're trying to get their thoughts together. Um,
I'm
but go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
But
Go ahead.
and they very well could be trying to get their thoughts together, or it could also be like in this very moment, we are giving an example of the fact that men don't even feel comfortable saying, yes, I feel like I have to suppress my emotions in comparison to my white counterparts,
Mhm.
because even that within itself may be frowned upon.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
acknowledging.
okay, they actually are. They're coming in. They're coming in. Hold on. I see Pumpkin is here. Pumpkin is here. Tallahassee, thank you for being here. All right. Flash said, we are expected to carry everyone else's concerns, but no one genuinely
Mm,
concerned about ours. Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that, Flash. And then Carl said, most of the time, if you open up, you are considered being soft. Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And with that, that is a lot of times what deters a man from, feeling comfortable being vulnerable.
Hmm.
And it requires a lot of effort and a lot of strength to be vulnerable enough, especially for a person in general, but definitely a man, considering the societal norms associated with manhood, to be like, yo, I'm struggling, right? Or I'm feeling really sad, or I'm having a bad day, without worrying about, am I going to be emasculated or considered to be less than a man because I've expressed myself?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So you gave a bit of a historical context in terms of, um, enslaved Africans and the slave experience here in
Mhm.
America. And so we may not even recognize that, but there is some um, continuity from that time to this, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Um, and that is why we call it intergenerational trauma, right? So, again, back in those days, they had to kind of contain or suppress their emotions. But even nowadays, men still have to suppress their emotions or be very mindful of who they express themselves to, because, as some of the men mentioned, if not, they're considered to be soft, or they're considered to be less than a man. And it's not taken into consideration that we are all humans
Right.
before we are our genitals, right?
Mm. All right, so a few more folks have chimed in. Donnie said, or if you open up, majority of the time it will be used against you. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Gerald said, absolutely, we feel like showing that vulnerability makes some of us feel uncomfortable. Thank you for sharing that, G. I appreciate it. Antonio, I feel as though in an overall aspect, it's best for us not to, due to the non-beneficial outcomes that comes from doing so. Now I hear that quite often.
Hmm.
You know, I was in a cohort of leaders, and the black males would rarely speak up. And this was about a class of about 40 or so people, and maybe there were like 5 or 6 black males in the lot. And I would ask them from time to time, why wouldn't they speak up or say anything? And they'd say it wouldn't do any good anyway. So, oh, which that breaks my heart.
It does, because they feel as if they don't have a voice, and their voice is definitely needed.
Yeah. Antonio said the cons outweigh the pros. Flash said the respect we receive as men is attributed to the amount of responsibilities we can effectively manage, and it could be overwhelming sometimes. Ooh, that's heavy. That
Absolutely. And that kind of expectation of managing these responsibilities, again, is what caused men to suffer in silence, because they're expected to be strong. They're expected to have themselves all the way together. If they're experiencing any emotions, they are expected to manage them on their own,
yeah,
or stuff them down, for lack of a better word.
indeed. We got Latashi from Palaca here. Thank you for being here. Candace said the only person a man can talk to about his problems is a tree. Candace, we got to change that mindset. We got to change that reality.
We definitely do, because a tree doesn't talk back, right? So essentially, that means that that man is processing his thoughts and emotions by himself. And a lot of times, we are our own worst critic, right? We are usually harder on ourselves than what other people would be. And so that mindset of, I can't talk to anyone, only further increases this suffering and silence mentality, which comes along with a lot of detrimental consequences
Yeah.
and outcomes.
All right. Warren said it's different reasons men don't speak up, but mostly coming from what men were taught to do concerning their emotions. Um, yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Carl, everyone is dependent upon you. Donnie, even when you talk, and if you're not being heard, why would you try to continue? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I hope, let me just say this. I hope the women on this live, the black women in particular,
Mhm.
really listening, are really hearing what the brothers are saying. Like, I really hope y'all are hearing what they're saying, because they're saying a lot.
And listening to really understand, right, and try to implement change, or figure out, hey, how can I as a woman break down these barriers, right? And not temporarily, right? Because sometimes, a lot of men don't express themselves, because it's like, yo, when you are upset with me, what is it going to look like in regards to me being vulnerable and sharing with you some of my most intimate and personal secrets? Like, are you going to use that against me? Are you going to go out and bash me and tell other people? So, really listening to determine whether or not you can be that safe space for them, or refer them to someone else who can, and encourage them along the way.
Whew. So, again, you have said a lot. Women, listen, I'm telling y'all, I've never been married, but I'm telling y'all, I talk to a lot of men, and they talk about, and I'm not a counselor, I'm an
Mhm.
advocate for mental health and wellness, but they talk about how they need their women to be their safe space for them. Because if that doesn't happen, or if, as Beneisha has just mentioned, like something gets thrown back up in their face, they shut down. They shut down, and now they're not going to be willing or wanting to talk to you about what's going on with them, because they feel like you can't handle it, or you're going to throw it back up in their face. Am I right about it?
Absolutely. And then what that does is perpetuate this cycle of no one cares, right? Or I'm always the problem, or, I can't express myself. So what happens is we are causing relationship trauma with that man. So when he goes to the next woman who may be genuinely trying to love on him, and, be there for him and protect and just be that safe space for him, he doesn't trust her, because of previous experiences that he's had in which his trust has been betrayed.
That is very, very true. All right. Flash said men are not expected to say no. Flash, give us a little bit more on that. Expound upon that if you don't mind. All right. Warren said, I'm in leadership and have a lot of followers, and I'll post about an issue that I'm having, and pastors and leaders will say, why are you posting that? My response is the truth and what I'm going through. Some people feel as if their input isn't the final decision for you, then they are not going to get better. This causes some men to not want to open up. Okay. Got it. Appreciate it. All right. Carl said, hurt people hurt people. Been there. Indeed. Go ahead.
So going back to what Warren said, right, in regards to like um, leadership, such as like pastors, a lot of times men do not engage in mental health services because of the stigma associated with mental health, as well as like the religious perspective, right? So a lot of times, you know, the belief is, oh, just go to the Lord in prayer and he'll work it out. And don't get me wrong, right? I do not undermine what our higher power can do. However, I do believe that he did put resources on this earth, such as myself and other clinicians, to be able to serve as a tool to help, you know, men and people in general to be able to talk through some of their struggles that they're going through. Because sometimes when we just focus solely on religion, sometimes people want somebody that can talk back. And granted, higher powers can talk back in various ways. But sometimes we like to have a person in front of us where I say something, you process it, and then, you know, you respond back versus just waiting, because sometimes we may not be able to hear, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The way in which we are expected to when it comes to like that religious or spiritual aspect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Keisha said we need God and a therapist.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Agree. All right. And Warren said, now when it gets to marriage and relationship, it's different for every relationship. I know, but in marriage, it's best to try and open up and communicate, because if not, it can be damaging as time goes on. Agreed. Agreed.
Absolutely. And and
Go.
then in those moments, if you know, communication is essential to any relationship, right? Because if you do not communicate with your partner or like your family member or friends, then you do not teach them how to interact with you, right? And people are not mind readers, right? We are prone to making mistakes. So it is important for our partners to be able to learn us, learn what our needs are, learn what our pressure points are. However, they will not be able to learn those things if we are not open and communicating what it is that our needs are or what it is that they should be mindful of when interacting with us.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed. All right. Warren said, thanks, Ms. Hires. Some leaders need to take your mental health issues and struggles like they take needing more tithers and givers. If you'll open up and say it, you can get help. All right. We got a few more folks that are chiming in. Alexis Lee. It looks like this is your cousin in Troy,
It
Alabama.
is.
All right. Good deal. And Steffi BTV in St. Augustine, Florida. Thank you for being here. All right, so we are right at about the halfway mark. So, for those of you who may be just joining us, I am Nicole Everett. This is Conversations with Nicole, Mindset Monday. And tonight I have Miss Beneisha Hires on. We're talking about Black men's mental health. June is Men's Health Month. Today is Juneteenth, Freedom Day. And so, what better thing to talk about than Black men's mental health? I see Miss Rachel Favors is on. Thank you for being here, Ray. She said, without communication, we have nothing. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Landon Jones, LaDon Jones. Hey there. LaDon is here in Tallahassee. Appreciate you. He said, if a man feels that he can't open up to a woman, do you think that he'll be hesitant to talk to a female therapist?
Um, he may be, but you know, as a female therapist, right? Let me advocate on behalf of female therapists. One of the good things or the difference between opening up to a female in your personal life and opening up to a female therapist is you are covered by HIPAA, right? So anything that we discuss within session, as long as it's not breaking certain confidentiality clauses, everything is private, right? A lot of times when I'm working with clients, I make sure to tell them upfront, hey, when I see you in person, I'm going to ignore you. And it's not to be rude or anything like that, but it's more so to preserve your confidentiality. If they approach me, then yes, I'll, speak and be polite, but conversations will be very short and quick, and that is it. So they may be initially, hesitant to open up to a female therapist, but the hope is that that HIPAA clause will make them feel a little bit more comfortable and, just giving it time, not just banking on one session. Oh, it was a hit or miss, but, just going to a couple sessions to try to really become comfortable with the therapeutic process within itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good point. Thank you for sharing that. All right. We got Mrs. Dr. Sam Carter, who is here in Tallahassee on. Thank you for being here, Sam. Carter's Corner in the house. All right. Warren said, Ms. Hires, can you give us 2 or 3 of the leading roots to the issues of men having mental health issues? Okay.
So 2 or 3. We'll say trauma in general, in like different areas of trauma, whether it be childhood trauma, whether it be parental trauma, whether it be sexual trauma, because that is definitely a thing for men as well, whether it be exposure to violence, racism, police brutality, um, and just a lack of being able to identify healthy versus unhealthy coping skills that could further increase negative mental health symptoms.
Now you have said a whole lot. I'm gonna ask you to circle it on back
Okay.
and let's unpack some of that. All right. So you said racial trauma, parental trauma, sexual trauma. So give us a little bit of a definition or differentiations maybe between some of all of that.
So, I mean, I feel like racial trauma, is pretty self-explanatory, right? Um, so, for an example, a lot in the news lately has been a lot of police brutality against Black people and Black men, right? And some of these times, Black men are doing little to nothing to warrant the level of police brutality that they experience. However, because of the melanin in our skin, right, they're automatically perceived as aggressive or dangerous or any other negative adjective to describe them, and some is not always justified, right? And so that within itself is racial trauma. Or parental trauma, right? So not having both parents in the home, or if you are raised in a single parent household, right? Listen, this might step on a few toes, but we just gonna be real, right? So sometimes when men are raised in single parent household, right? Um, Mothers who have not done the inner work to kind of heal from that relationship not working or being left to be a single parent, sometimes they raise their sons to be the man they wish they had, right? Versus really ingraining in them what they should look for in a woman, right? Being like, hey, you should look for someone who is going to love you for you, who's going to support you and encourage you, who's going to provide you with a safe space, all of these things. But instead, a lot of times men are taught, hey, you're supposed to be a protector and a provider. You got to make sure you have a good job. You need to make 6 figures. When you are engaging in extracurricular activities, make sure you don't cry, because boys don't cry. You need to control yourself, all of these things. And what that does is it restricts men and young boys from being able to explore who they are authentically, right? So they are stuck within this box, which can be very much suffocating. And so that within itself can be parental trauma, or the absence of their father to be that role model to teach them what a man is supposed to be like, or what that consists of. So that is where parental trauma comes in. And again, parents not doing their own inner work, right, to make sure that they are not causing their children to experience vicarious trauma.
LaDon said we call it son husband.
Absolutely.
Indeed. All right, we got a couple more comments I want to bring up. Donnie said, "I think a man will open up to the woman that makes him feel like she actually cares and wants to listen." Indeed. And let's see, we got Paris plus two kings giving you greetings, and my
Hi,
cousin
dear.
Tony, Tony, my cousin Tony over in Seattle is chiming in. All right, Kevin Evans, do you think that once a man reaches a point that he feels he can't be vulnerable with his woman, is there any coming back from that?
Um, I feel like in those situations, it all depends on the steps that are have been taken to try to come back from that, right? So, trying to express ourselves, yes, communication is key. However, sometimes in relationships, we need a mediator, right? Because a lot of times we get to a point where we listen to respond versus listening to understand, right? So sometimes going to couples counseling to be able to have that neutral party to mediate, right? And to also reframe and communicate and make sure that the other party is fully understanding what their mate is trying to say, right? So just really going to therapy. And a lot of times in therapy, couples are able to determine whether or not the relationship is worth salvaging and moving forward, or if it is in both parties' best interest to call it quits.
Nice. Yeah. Again, a mediator may be necessary. And so,
Mhm.
you know, I know people that have gone to couples therapy, that do go to couples therapy currently. And so that may be very necessary. But it's, like you said, it's really going to depend on the couple and, their willingness to do the work and, work through those old issues that they evidently can't overcome or are having
Mhm.
a challenge overcoming. All right. So I'm gonna go back to the list that you gave because I kind of
Okay.
interrupted with some of the other questions, but sexual trauma. Can you talk to us a little bit about that one?
Yes. So again, with so, according to society, right, there are social norms associated with masculinity. And one of those things is, the assumption that men should just be having sex with multiple partners, right? Um, and with that, sometimes it is minimized that men experience sexual assault. And just to, go a little bit further, and again, I am not a man, right? I am not an expert. So, guys, please chime in as you feel comfortable, right? Um, so in interacting with some of the men that I have worked with, whether it be in a professional setting or even in a personal setting of having conversations, men do experience sexual assault, and a lot of times what it consists of is when they are unconscious, right? And so sometimes when they are unconscious, men can still have an erection, and them having an erection has nothing to do with physical or psychological arousal. It has a lot to do with like their testosterone levels. So if their testosterone levels are high when they are asleep or when they are under the influence, they are likely to get an erection. And that's what some men call a boner, right? For lack of a better word. And so what happens is when they have this erection, it is assumed that they are a willing participant, even though they are unconscious. And so a lot of times men are taking advantage in those situations, and experiencing sexual trauma, or even during childhood, right? Sometimes, whether it be a family member, the babysitter, men experience sexual trauma as well. And if it is sexual trauma that involves another male, it also comes um, this psychological difficulty in processing things related to homophobia, right? Or sometimes when boys experience sexual trauma from a woman, they become hypersexual throughout their adulthood. And then, if you think about other aspects such as military, right? Sometimes men in the military experience sexual trauma as well, but those things are not highlighted because of the culture.
Great points. Great points. Again, we are really trying to be about, peeling back some of these layers, uncovering
Mhm.
things, having open and honest conversations. So, this is real talk,
It
real
is,
talk.
because
And
it is a real serious situation, right? And we really want to address it with the hopes that men will get the help or have the space to be able to talk about these things so that way they can be the best version of themselves, whatever that may look like.
and that's exactly what we want to happen, which is why we have these conversations. Which
Absolutely.
have these conversations. So my cousin Tony is in Colorado. And I know it was somewhere over there. And he said very true. He also agrees with Tony has a grief um um agency or organization. And so he does a grief conference annually. It's and particularly for men. And so, again, another opportunity, another space for men to express themselves and maybe tap into some feelings that they have been told that they, should not be feeling or only should be feeling during death or something like that. But, you know, grief is for many different things. All right. Antonio said, good points. Thank you for chiming in, Antonio. So, all right, we've talked about parental, sexual, racial. Let's talk about the protector provider piece. Right. I think oftentimes when we think about manhood or define manhood, it is relegated to a man as a protector and provider, and that's it. And I think, especially our more senior or seasoned men, that I think has been absolutely ingrained in them. And maybe their thought has been, as long as I'm doing that, I'm good. Like there's nothing else that really is required of me. So let's kind of unpack that a little bit.
So, when thinking about, being a protector and a provider, I think it is very according to societal norms. And yes, I know that I reference it a lot, but society does really ingrain in us what a man is supposed to look like. And it is a very linear mindset, right? However, just like womanhood is fluid, manhood is fluid as well. So when it comes to being a protector and a provider, we are conditioned to view men as protector in a sense of like physically safe, and provider when it comes to finances, right? However, we negate the importance of a man being a provider could mean mentally and emotionally, right? Being available to not only like their significant other but also to the children, right? Having the emotional intelligence to be able to notice when things are going on and being able to be there to provide that mental and emotional support. And when it comes to protection, like again in that mental and emotional aspect as well, when we are expressing ourselves, right? Men being able to nurture our feelings, and protect them and guard them as well. And sometimes when you think about gender roles, right? So a man could be a protector and a provider as far as like he may be a man who prefers to engage in domestic duties, such as taking care of things around the house, making sure that the children are taken care of, that they are transported from here and there. If he is doing those things, he is also being a protector and a provider because he is making sure that the children are safe, right? So he's providing that level of protection, but he's also providing in the sense of like mental and emotional because he's able to really connect with the children and build those relationships that are long lasting.
Hmm. Good points. Good point. I'm hoping that this is resonating with, especially with the men. And if it is, if y'all will let us know. Carl said, growing up in a single parent home, I felt like at times it affected my earlier life choices. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Courtney said, so true. Okay. So Courtney, that resonated with her. All right. So with the, you mentioned some other aspects of the protector provider piece, which I think maybe we don't think about as much, but it's not just, bringing home the paycheck, and it's not just, I'm gonna protect you from this uh I don't know, a physical threat, right?
Mhm.
There's just much more to it than that.
Yes, and with women progressing professionally and financially the way that they are, right? Some women really want their man to protect and provide from a mental and emotional aspect, right? So, like, hey, can you be here to support me mentally and emotionally? When I get home, am I able to take, my mask off and be my authentic self, knowing that my partner, he's there for me. He's able to, help me out. So a lot of times most women are not just solely focused on like, oh, do you make six figures? And like you say, can you protect me from a physical threat? But a lot of women are slowly evolving into, hey, I need my mental and emotional needs met, and we can figure out the finances together.
Hmm. Ebonique said, I love that you mentioned protecting us emotionally and not just physically. Men do a good job at listening to us, and we should do the same for them. Yes. Agreed, agreed,
Absolutely.
agreed. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Shalimar Lee in Union Springs, Alabama has joined us. Thank you for tuning in. All right. So, again, we're talking about Black men and mental health, Black men and mental health. Um, and we've covered quite a bit, actually. Covered quite a bit. Of course, manhood is fluid, right? It moves around a bit.
Hmm.
It's not just protection and provision. There's much more to it than that.
Yes. And as women, right, or significant others to these men, I think it is really important that we become receptive and open to the idea that masculinity is fluid, right? And so, really taking the time to learn and experience our partner for who they are as an individual,
Mm.
right? And then determining whether or not they're a good fit. So, if you have an idea of the type of man that you need in your life, right? Beef up your vetting process, right? Be very specific in what it is that you are looking for in a man. So that way you will know how to properly vet this man. So if he is not one for you, right? Instead of waiting later on down the line or, hoping that he'll change or he'll be someone that you want him to be. And then when he's not, we begin emasculating him or trying to make him feel less than because he didn't meet our expectations when from the beginning, he kind of told you, who he was. It's just whether or not we decided to continue to interact. So again, it is very fluid, but it's just a matter of coming in with little to no expectations and focusing more so on experiencing and learning that individual and
Mm.
determining whether or not they're the man for us.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. I would also challenge, and I challenge the women in this way as well, but I challenge the men in this way to really be you, right? I think sometimes men can get caught up in um, showing their representative and, being who they think that the woman wants them to be, but that's not going to serve you well. It's not going to serve you well because you can't keep that up. So be authentically yourself. And then my second challenge would be, which really should be the first one, is know who you are. It's a lot
Absolutely.
of people walking around here who do not know who they are. So take the time to really know who you are. And that's going to take some reflecting. That's going to take some evaluating your life's experience, your lived experiences, and sifting through the things that served you well during those experiences and the things that didn't serve you well. And so, I'm constantly that's the question I ask my clinicians or my guests on the show. That's the first question is, who are you? Not what you do. Who are you? Because if you don't do that stuff, you still gonna be who you are.
Hmm.
Who are you? Like really, really know who you are and be who you are. Like, and if you don't like who you are, change
Change.
it. Pick up some new skills, some new habits. Like really, like for real, for real. Like it's time out for all of the games and the facades and like for real, like be who you are.
Hmm.
For real, for real. All right,
And
go ahead.
so what, even in being who you are, so a lot of times I talk with my clients about the concept of mask off, right? And so what I mean by that is, um, I truly believe that when we leave the thresholds of our homes, we have to mask up, right? Because we never know what we're going to face with the outside world. And so being able to create an environment within your own personal space, whether it be you home by yourself or whether you're there with family, friends, significant others, but being able to take your mask off and being your authentic self, because you being able to be your authentic self lets those people in your personal life really know who you are, right? And also, if they really love you, right, they're going to be there to support you, help you lick your wounds, so that way you can go back outside the next day and handle business. But it really starts with us learning how to be comfortable with our authentic selves. And like you say, exploring who that is and being honest with ourselves in the process.
Indeed, indeed. So I got to give some real quick shout outs. Mr. Ponder is on here. I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for being here. My brother Tarek and Dwelle in the ATL is on here. I appreciate you as well. We got Anitra Farmer who's here, as well as Miss Magnolia Hood. Also a conversations with Nicole, former guest. We got to get you back on here. So she said this whole conversation is rich. I was talking to a black man that was sharing his experience that being a man that is more versed in other areas is seen as not masculine. Lies, I tell you,
Mhm.
lies. Listen, tell him don't go for the okie doke. All right, Magnolia says so. He has to fit into a box predefined so that he is not seen, so that he is maybe not seen as not being a man. Yeah. Lies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kiera Robinson, I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation for Mindset Monday tonight. Thanks for the invite, Beneisha. Thank you for being here. Kiera, we appreciate you. And Ponder said, be okay with who you are.
Yes,
Like,
because nobody has to live with you but you, right?
nobody
So
has.
it's best that we learn to be okay with ourselves, and those who really love and value our relationship will learn to accept us for who we are.
Absolutely. And if they don't, that's not your tribe.
Absolutely.
Find
And
your
you can find another one.
tribe. Antonio, sometimes we as men have to just start our day off by looking ourselves in the mirror and telling ourselves that I love me. Yes,
Mhm.
because when we go out into the world, there's very little love for us, but great expectations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Affirmations are powerful. So definitely encourage the men on here, the black men on here, to affirm yourself positively every day.
Every day.
Every day. All right, Kanisha, this was amazing. I always encourage my husband to express himself good or bad. Yes, but in a healthy way. Yes. All right, Lucille Lee, so true. Very good. Whew, boy, this has been good. This has been really good. And I'm so grateful for those of you who have been on and have made your thoughts and feelings known, especially our Black men, since our topic tonight has been Black men and mental health. So, Beneisha, we are coming to the close of our conversation. But before we do, I want to give you an opportunity to give any closing remarks and tell the folks how they can connect with you.
So in my closing remarks, I have two things. One is, as Antonio mentioned, like daily affirmations. And one of the things that I say to myself that I encourage Black men and anyone in general that may be helpful is I matter too. My thoughts, my feelings, my wants, and my desires are just as important as anyone else's, because that is definitely true. And if we don't prioritize ourselves, right, we are only as good to others as we are to ourselves. And then for the women, just really being intentional about creating a safe space for men to be able to express themselves and being mindful not to throw up their vulnerabilities in their face to use against them during various altercations or conflicts. Um, if you would like to reach out to me, you're more than welcome to do so. You can email me at info at imatter2cc, as in Charlie.com, or you can look me up on social media, Beneisha Hires on Facebook.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful. Definitely connect with her. Are you accepting new clients at this time?
Yes, I am currently accepting new clients.
Wonderful. And you are here in Florida, so they do need to be in Florida, correct?
Yes,
All
correct.
right. Do you accept insurance?
I do. So the insurances that I currently accept is Optum. So United Healthcare, Oscar. I accept Cigna and Aetna as well.
Okay. All right. So definitely her email is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Connect with her. If you are looking for a clinician, if you want to ask a question offline, by all means, reach out. Again, this is what Mindset Monday and Wellness Wednesday is all about. So hopefully you all have enjoyed this. I see a few of you chiming in. If you have, if you'll let us know by giving us a thumbs up or a hand clap or some hearts or something, let us know. All right, Yvette Jones, this has been a great discussion. Javasia Floyd, yes, that is so true. Thank you for being here, Miss Floyd. I appreciate you. Donnie, thank you for this. You will be surprised how much this helps guys with no one to talk to. Oh, thank you, Donnie, so much for sharing that. We hope so. We really, really do. And guys who feel like they have no one to talk to, who are listening to us, who are under the sound of my voice, you are not alone. There are resources out there available to you. So please reach out. If you don't know where to start, reach out to me. I will connect you. No matter where you are in the country, I can connect you with a clinician. So don't suffer in silence. Don't suffer in silence, brother. You don't have to. My sister Shayla, thank you. Ebony, great job. Thank you for being here. Brianna, thank you for being here. Checking
Thanks,
out
Juliet.
Mom. Alexis Lee, thank you for being here. Miss C. Taylor, appreciate you. Carl, this felt good. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate you, your honesty and your willingness to share. Miss Magnolia, great conversation. Thank you. Miss Renee, thank you. Brittany T, thank you. Yes, timely, timely. Again, we talking black men and their mental health. We need you all, black men. We
We
need you.
definitely do.
We
We
love
definitely do.
love you. We love you. We love you. We need you. We need you. We need you. And I'm not just saying that. I really do mean it. Courtney, Shamar, thank you so much. Carl, thank you again. Tracy, Gole, thank you. Roy Lee, thank you. Mom and Dad, hey, Daddy. Thank you for being here. All right. Lucille Lee, loving it. Thank you. Thank you. Anitra, thank you. And Mr. Ponder, thank you so much, Mr. Ponder, my brother. I appreciate you. Listen, we are here Mondays and Wednesdays for this purpose and this purpose primarily, which is to help eliminate the stigma of mental illness in Black and Brown communities and encouraging us to get our checkup from the neck up. So, y'all, please subscribe, please like, please follow. That's what we do. We're here at 8:30 Eastern Time. Mindset Monday, Wellness Wednesday with this in mind only. All right. Because this is what we are passionate about and this is what we do. So, Beneisha, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This has been great. Can we get you to come back?
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you so much for having me. This was great. This was really fun. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Well, y'all, Wednesday show is around the trauma epidemic and using nonviolent communication to help solve that. So you definitely, and I'll have Dr. Cindy Bigby on with me, so y'all definitely don't want to miss that. And actually tomorrow we have Singles Mingle with Roz and Nick. So that'll be here at 8:30 tomorrow night. So we got a full week ahead. So at any rate, appreciate y'all. We will see y'all next time. Have a good night.
Have a
Night.
good evening.